Ladies and gentlemen, may I introduce Maria-Christiana von Habsburg, CEO of Mary's Meals Germany. Maria-Christiana, please join me. Maria is our charity partner here at the conference, and she will talk about the topic, the impact of rising food prices, conflicts, and climate change on food security in the poorest countries in the world. Maria-Christiana von Habsburg has been chair of Mary's Meals Germany since 2013. Prior to this, Maria-Christiana was responsible for the Emmanuel community in Germany. She is also a board member of Fidesco International, a Catholic NGO, supporting volunteer development projects in the global south. The International Children's Aid Organization, Mary's Meals, operates in 18 of the poorest countries in the world and feeds more than 2.4 children every day at their, pardon?
2.4 million, not only 2.4.
Yes, 2.4 million, excuse me, 2.4 million children every day at their place of education. Food is a strong incentive for parents to send their children to school instead of to work in the fields, factories, rubbish dumps, or begging. Linking food and education enables the children to sustainability, improve their future prospects. Nikki, over to you.
Thanks a lot. So, thanks a lot for the invitation. It's always quite challenging at the end of an extremely full day with great topics, I assume, so to speak. So, but I'm happy to be here. So let me see if it works. Here it is. No, so yes. Oops. So thanks for the introduction, Joachim. Yes, as you said, so I'm responsible for this international organization, Mary's Meals, and I will talk today about the impact of rising prices, conflicts, climate change conflicts, especially, of course, the Ukraine war, and climate change on hunger. And, of course, I will also talk about the impact of school feeding in this context. So to start with a few figures, 768 million people are currently suffering from acute hunger. This has, of course, a terrible effect, especially on children. And so I can see, just as you can read it, 15% of all newborns, and this is worldwide, are underweight. And 161 million children under the age of 5 are far too small for their age as a result of malnutrition. And malnutrition has huge effects not only on the body, on the health of the children, but of course also on the development of their brains. So in last very sad figures that 3.1 million children under 5 die of the consequence of hunger every year, which means every 10 seconds, a children dies as a result of hunger. So to quote David Beasley, the director of the UN World Food Programme, we're facing the world's worst humanitarian crisis since World War II. So on this chart, you can see the evolution of the hunger figures since the beginning of the century. And actually, we see it was quite good news, because in the beginning, in the first decade at least, or 2 decades, you had a constant decrease of the numbers of hunger, of people suffering of hunger. But you can see on the chart that beginning with 2017-18, and it has just a jump going from 2019, it started increasing rapidly again. So what are the causes for this current hunger crisis? First of all, the COVID pandemic. So the UN says that they assume that more than 200 million additional people are affected by hunger due to the pandemic. So we can see actually that in the countries of the global south, many more people are going to die of the consequence of the pandemic, much more than of the disease itself. So maybe I can jump there. So why so? The most important reason actually is the severe disruption of the food supply chain. Through the lockdowns and all the dysfunction of the global market, there were a few factors like the reduction of the production of food factories, then the trade restrictions of many countries, together with closures of airlines and the difficulty to transport food. And then also on a local scale, the lockdowns disrupted the local agricultural production. So this was not only a problem per se, but it showed also the structural weakness of the whole system of the globalization, and that everything is so much interacting that if you have a bug at one place, you have the whole system fails. Additionally, for many of the countries of the South, many sources of income, such as tourism, for instance, were disrupted by the lockdowns. And last but not least, the school closures had also a strong effect on hunger, because many children get their only food at school through the school feedings. And so when the school closed, of course, they didn't have this possibility to get any food anymore at school. And I must quite proudly say that Mary's Meals, as the only big organization, found ways to still keep feeding the children, also in the times of COVID. Maybe if we have time, I can say a few more words how they did it. But anyway, it's a fact. So a second big reason for the rise of these hunger numbers is the war in the Ukraine. So I've heard you had a very interesting conference topic this morning about this. Actually, I mean, Ukraine is known as the breadbasket, as you say, from Europe, but also from the whole world, that their production is important to feed 400 million people worldwide. So, of course, there were two most important factors in this. Through the war, the production was impaired, of course, but also through the blockade of the Ukrainian ports, which has been released after a time, but still this affected hugely, actually, the transportation of the grain and all the production. So something we all notice also when we go to the gas station, the incredible rise of the prices of fuel. So this affects, of course, also hugely the local production and the farmers. Another factor was the lack of fertilizers because of the blockade or the ban on Russian exports. So Russia and Belarus are the two biggest producers of fertilizers, and this has been already affecting the last harvest, but it's going to affect also. It's predicted that it will affect the next harvest very hugely, and this has not only effects on the production in Africa, but also, of course, in South and North America and in Asia. And as the global production is going to be smaller, this will, of course, have an effect on the prices. Food prices have been increasing for a longer time already. And as you can see on this chart, of course, since 2019-20, it has been rising in a much stronger way. And it has this strong acceleration since COVID and the Ukrainian crisis. So the third big factor of the increase of hunger worldwide is the climate change. Maybe I can just go here further. Yeah, as you can see, most affected by the climate change is Africa, but also the whole countries of the south are very affected. So it's horrible to think that most of the production of CO2 is done in the northern parts of the globe, and the terrible effects of the climate change are the most noticeable in the south. So to go back, let's see if this works too. Yeah. So we have assisted to an incredible increase in the last 2 and 3 years of drought, of floods, plagues. Maybe you have heard about this this La Nina, which is well, I don't know how you call it in English, sorry. But yes, in any case, the natural disasters have increased hugely in the last years. And as I just showed before, the low-income countries are the most vulnerable. And especially in Eastern Africa, we had a terrible drought in the last 2 years. And 4 rainy seasons have failed completely. So there was no rain in the last four rainy seasons. And we don't know how it's going to continue. And actually the people, not only the animals, many of them died through the drought, but also the people are now so weakened by this hunger in the last years that yeah, it's quite dramatic, because many say they won't be able to survive the next drought. So I can. This is just because Somalia is the worst affected country in the world. So these are the figures. So, but not to speak only about the, let's say, the terrible situation we find there. I wanted, of course, also to speak about what Mary's Meals does in this context, and there's a note of optimism also in this. So the idea of Mary's Meals, as you said before, Joachim, thanks a lot for this, is to join food and school, which gives the local people, really the possibility to get out of this process of poverty and of hunger by their own means or strength. So, as it said here, school meals attract hungry children to school, because many times, as I said before, it's in many cases it's the only meal they will have in the day. And even more than that, it motivates the parents to send their kids to school instead of working in the fields or in the factories. Once the children are at school, of course, they can better concentrate. We have been making some assessments the last years, and we saw how the results of the children really improved through the school feeding. Also, the children are less likely to miss school due to illness, so we can really see the days of really schooling improve also. Maybe just a little example for this. I already gave before it. Sorry, I met once in Malawi a head teacher of a school. She founded a school only for children affected by AIDS, and she told me that before they had been really doing great work for these children, but they always had problems because the medicine against the effects or against AIDS they were given for free at the school, but it is quite they're quite tough for the body when you are not strong enough, And so she said that before they had the medicine, but actually they were still very ill and missing school most of the time. And beginning with the food school feeding, she really noticed that the children were much healthier, and they were able then to take the medicine in the proper way. So, of course, it's obvious what good effects it has on the lives of the children. Also, it gives them the possibility to receive an education and to be able later, when they're as adults, to break out the cycle of poverty. And also, I mean, we're here sometimes in Europe, we're quite afraid when we see all those migrants coming quite desperately from this country because they just don't have any choice. And so I think it's the best to give the people locally in their place and in their countries the possibility to have a good life, or a life at least with enough possibilities so that they can stay at home. I think this was a film. I don't know if it works, but it doesn't matter. Oh yeah, okay. So this is only to show you all the countries where Mary's Meals is working. So we started actually with one school with 200 children in Malawi, and now 20 years ago, and now after 20 years, we feed 4.2 million children every day at their place of education in 18 of the poorest countries of the world. So, yeah, this is just to show how we're very thankful that we were able to grow in such a way. And this is mainly due to the generosity of many, many people who support Mary's Meals, just because they hear about it and say they want to be part of the journey. Because we don't have any institutional funding, so it's most of the funding is grassroots, but it's also, of course, we have also some corporate cooperation. Yeah, very important for Mary's Meals is that the food is bought locally, so it helps also the local economy. And we always, if possible, we always try to buy all the ingredients on site from small farmers. So as you see maybe at the bottom of this chart, which is quite extraordinary, is that with only 22 euro, you can feed a child a whole year. How is this possible? Many times I know people tell me, well, are you sure you didn't make a mistake? Is it maybe every 20 euro a month? But no, it's really for one school year. And this has many reasons. One of it being that we buy everything locally, but also that most of the parts of the organization is based on volunteers. So not only here or in the fundraising richer countries, but also on site, the food and everything is delivered by the local community, which is quite important because it gives them also a feeling of ownership. So it's not only, we don't do it only because it's good for the overheads, but because it gives the people really the feeling that they're part of it and that they can do something for their own children. So as you say, volunteers prepare the meals. In Malawi alone, it's 80,000 volunteers who come and help serving the foods every day. Something we're also quite proud of is that we managed to work with only 7% overheads, which is, to give you an idea, organizations like UNICEF, the Red Cross, they have overheads of the normal quote is like 30-35%. So it's extremely low, and because our commitment is really to the children, and it's very important for us to know that most of the money we raise is really able to reach the children. So yeah, this is what a school looks like, a bit different from our schools. Sorry, this chart is in German, but I guess many of you anyway speak German. But I thought it was interesting also because you have the concrete figures, the numbers, but it's not only about that. I think it's also so great when you're there to see, when you start talking to the children, that they're able also to dream. Because before, if you have to struggle, if your only purpose in life is to see how you're going to survive and if you're going to be able to have enough to eat the next day, you don't have the possibility to make any plans for your work, for your own life. So this is something we really see when we work there with the children. So also what I said before, they can concentrate better, they feel, we asked them, how do you feel when you're at school? And they said, to be able to learn without the fear of hunger, this is something, a game changer. Because hunger is so terrible, not only because the real effects and the feeling of hunger, but the fear of being hungry is affecting your whole mind the whole time. Yes, so that's, I already said that. Oh yes, maybe this is interesting to see that effectively 20%, we have 20% more enrollment at schools when we start in the places we started the project. And also very important that we have as many girls as boys, which is also not so frequent in these countries. Yes, so thanks for your attention. If you have some questions.
Thank you very much.